Now, what impact would the withdrawal of the three junta-led states have on ECOWAS?
Well, ECOWAS says the lifting of sanctions is purely on humanitarian grounds. That is true. But what is also true, Esther, is also that ECOWAS cannot just afford to have these member states leave the bloc and possibly form what is a counter-bloc to ECOWAS. Now, there are several implications. One, it will definitely undermine the regional integration that ECOWAS has put together. What does this mean? That this entanglement alone will cost trade and service flow within the region, which I think is up to the tune of about $150 billion. So ECOWAS cannot absolutely afford that. Secondly, it will affect the freedom of movement of citizens within the region. Now, these three countries alone, even though they are only three, they represent 10% of the region's GDP. Therefore, their departure in itself will constitute a reduction in the market size of ECOWAS. The third part is that it will affect security cooperation. Don't forget that Niger and some of these countries constitute the Sahel. With all what is going on in the Sahel, there has been a sharing of intelligence. And it's very important that these countries remain part of that bloc to be able to use that vital resource to fight the insurgents that is happening in some of those countries, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, as well as in Niger. The final one, and this is very important, it will threaten the viability of ECOWAS. Don't forget that there is a real feeling that there is a democratic backslide in that region. With this withdrawal, there is a likelihood that this in itself will create a counter to ECOWAS, and some of the countries within ECOWAS right now might find this as a solace in the event that ECOWAS is not kind of accommodating to some of their democratic tendencies. So it's important that
out of the three countries, Niger seemed to have kind of gotten a bit of favor here. The lifting of sanctions were kind of numerous. We didn't hear much about the other two countries. What do you think led ECOWAS to do this?
Well, I mean, absolutely. When Niger had probably some of the most sanctions. And don't forget, there was even the likelihood of a military intervention to bring back President Bazoum. So when all of these sanctions were removed, the only condition that Niger was given was that President Bazoum be replaced. The important reason for that is that Niger has an outsized global impact. While its economic and social indicators in itself place it at the bottom of the global development indicators, in actual fact, its mineral resources, oil, and its potential for the development of renewable energies and its very strong demographic growth will explain its seemingly outsized interest. So there's a lot of interest in Niger, not only within the region of ECOWAS, but even outside the region. And you can see why there is this need. And the final part is Nigeria shares border with Niger. Any instability and destabilization in Niger in itself is going to have an impact on Nigeria. So obviously, with Nigeria leading ECOWAS, you can see why there is an urgent need to be able to actually calm down the fears that's happening in the region, particularly in Niger.
Stephen, very quickly, does the ECOWAS bloc have the, the capability to defeat the insurgents that are, playing a kind of very difficult role? They are messing around the countries of West Africa, especially in the Sahel region.
ECOWAS does. You can fight what is happening in the region right now. It's not just country-based, it's region-based. It's several countries. And all of these countries are linked both by tradition, by culture, by language, by families. The only way that can be minimized is through regional integration. And perhaps if there's any one bloc that has the probability of doing that, it's ECOWAS. They did that in Sierra Leone. They did that in Liberia by actually minimizing conflict and restoring democratic government. So ECOWAS has a potential to do that. But to be able to do that, it has to be able to keep all of these countries on board. If it doesn't, then I'm very, very much afraid that ECOWAS will actually lose that capability.